Hello everyone, Awesome here, and today we'll be taking a look at the Recon class. So let's get to it. First off, the Recon is basically like an infantry guy with less slots for weapons, but he has access to scope, a better scope, as well as an infantry fighting vehicle. Now to get a Recon, you need to grind up an infantry to rank 9, and that's how you unlock Recon. Or you can hit up the store, find the Recon dude. You can grab a regular Recon for 440k, but I do not suggest buying the standard Recon if you're going for the buy option. Always go for a lieutenant, 479k, or pick up a major for 629. Now, I'll get into the Recon. So here we go. Here's the Recon dude. Now, he is an infantry guy. He also has less lives than an infantry guy. And if we go into our weapon setup here, we've got the only options we have are pistols, semi-autos, bolt action, which is what you'll mainly be using. You also have submachine gun, if that's like if you're even say an offensive recon, but I don't suggest ever using a submachine gun. And then you've got only a total of 7 slot compared to a 10 slot infantry guy. You also have access to anti-tank grenades, mines, and every single anti-personnel mine from each of the factions. Grenades, and then you've got wrench and binocs. And obviously, knives. So, the main thing about a Recon is his bolt action. So we'll be looking at the unlocks that you can get for your bolt action, and why the Recon is a much better choice if you're going to be sniping and if you really like sniping in this game. So first off, you really only have 2 choices of ammo here, and your main option is this sniper ammo, just because you get precision, range, which is very important for a Recon, and you get your damage. So with the sniper ammo, this goes with all factions. Your range with the Recon will be over 250 meters, so you'll be able to one-shot anybody pretty much within this 250 meters and a little bit beyond. Germans get the best range, say around 300 meters. The other factions will drop off around, say 260-ish, but not a huge difference between those two. As well, the other option for ammo is this SMK Heart round, which effectively you lose half of your range and you gain a significant amount of damage. Now think of the regular, say just this Anschluss Patron, the sniper ammo. The sniper ammo will be able to one-shot anybody, and the SMK Heart round will be able to one-shot anybody through bronze heavyset. So it's an upgraded, you can one-shot those bronze users, but at the cost of half your range. And the other option that goes along with this is the barrel option. Now the barrel option, this is your main damage just adjustment to your gun. And now the Recon, they get all 3 barrels in this case. Well, they have access to more barrels than the other factions do. So they get what most people would use is a chrome molly, and the chrome molly with the Anschluss Patron will one-shot through bronze. Chrome molly with SMK Heart will one-shot through silver. This applies to all factions. You can also take a different route and ignore using the chromoly and go for one of these other two barrels here, which will basically be like a standard infantry guy with more accuracy. So you can go with a basic barrel, and this will still be able to one-shot through anybody. But again, the main reason for picking Recon is to get these better, more so the better damaging barrel, which will one-shot through bronze. Now the other option that a Recon guy does have is when you first, if you're buying a Recon, you get access to this 4.2 times Fine Cross, which is a lot better than the standard infantry's T Cross or German Cross, or the German scope. So with the Fine Cross you can definitely see a lot more, and the Recon get access to the 8 times scope, which is a lot better magnification than the standard scope. So the 8 times scope, there's really two options here. I'm not really sure what the second 8 times scope is. It pretty much just gives you worse vision than, say, the best scope, and you only unlock the German number 4 one rank before the Fine Cross, so you're better off just saving until you get the Fine Cross. As well, you get obvious, same with the infantry guy, same set of triggers here. I would only suggest running, you can run either 40 RPM or you can just run 35 and have the max accuracy. It's really up to you what you run with trigger. Heavy bolt, nothing new here, just damage. And obviously camos depending on your faction. Nothing changes with those. So now I'll look at the badges, and now a Recon guy has to play a little bit differently with his badges, or you should play differently with your badges. So good badges to have are heavy set, so you can fight other Recon and infantry bolt action users, since you'll be mostly using your range to your advantage, so this will let you survive a shot from any of those guys. But you can also use, say, Marathon Man for extra stamina, as well as fast reload, ghillie, and perhaps the best badge of all, camouflage. No kill cam. This is very important for Recon. It'll be very hard to find exactly where you are, so you can hold down a good position and flank your enemies, maybe get behind lines, all sorts of stuff like that. As far as gameplay for Recon goes, I would say they're best used for defense, especially on choke points where you know it's a one-line attack and you just need to ambush infantry crossing over the river. Even if you don't kill the infantry, damaging them is usually enough for your infantry to quickly deal with them before they can, say, get across the river and capture your point. A great use for Recon is just pretty much being the eyes and ears of a fellow tanker, specifically heavy tanks, since heavy tanks are generally the slowest tank in the game, and heavy tanks are more about positioning more so than anything else. And so infantry, as well as other heavy tanks, love trying to do long flanking maneuvers just to take out your team's heavy tanks. So protect your tankers with Recon and you will definitely get kills out of it, and you'll definitely get some great teamwork going. Now, since Recon get a lot of different scope options, sometimes using the max 8x scope isn't always the best, and maybe you'll opt for a regular infantry scope, but the fine cross version, which honestly I would say is much better than the T-cross or regular German, so a bit easier to see with it when you're engaging targets close to medium range and fighting other snipers, say on skirmish maps. Also keep in mind that generally when you're playing Recon, you'll be using the better damaging barrel, or you'll be scoped in almost all the time. So majority of the fights you won't be standing up. I would say standing up, the standing sway is okay for, say, close to medium, but anything that's past the medium-ish range, you want to be crouched or even prone just to get the most accurate shot possible. Using the higher damage bullet and barrel together, you can one-shot even those heavy silver set guys. Now this is not always the best thing to run, but it really depends on your playstyle. The accuracy is very bad, especially if you're using the highest zoom scope, so generally you want to be quick scoping. The crouching and prone also work very well, but more so if you're going for longer scope in time. Playing really defensive with your Recon, always look out for those sneaky paratroopers. They really love backstabbing Recons and stealing their rifles. Playing my Recon, I always like to move up with my infantry and either just hold a capture point, preventing enemy infantry from reaching it, or picking off infantry near a capture point so my friendly infantry can go and cap it. You really shouldn't be the first guy into a capture point with a Recon. I know sometimes that happens, but really you should be sticking back at medium range and clearing the zone out. Recons have access to a combat car, which is basically a small tank, just slightly less hit points and armor. You can see in third person without exposing yourself too much. Great feature. It's very good for killing infantry, and the combat car can even fight other light tanks. Oh, I killed that chappie with my BA6. Alright, so after all that, let's look at some pros and cons now for the Recon. First off, less inventory space. This is a pretty decent deal. I mean, you only get 7 slots for your Recon. As well, less options as far as weapons go. Less lives and resources based on the squad. Most games, you'll either have a motorbike squad, which will have 24 Recon, or a combat car squad, which will have 28 Recon. And there's a usage balance here. Some people don't really make use of the combat cars, or some people would rather have motorcycles, so the squads are a bit odd in that sense. As well, many people either use too much of the Recons, so then you have too many campers, and Recons will feel the need to be in infantry and go frontline capping, or not enough people will use the resource, which results in too many infantry losses, and you can even end up losing a game if you're just down to Recon because nobody wants to play Recon, or nobody has it unlocked. You will be mostly hated by your enemy. People would rather shoot a Recon over an infantry guy. It can be very hard to find good Recon matches, war matches in particular, as lots of the generals sending assault teams would much rather use their Recon resources for map vision. It's also the hardest class to grind to. You need rank 9. Many people would rather grind up a character and use it for, say, a tanker or a pilot, much rather than Recon. It's expensive to use because more often than not, your bolt action will be your primary weapon, so you can expect to pay at least 50% or more of your salary per match just on the bolt action. And lastly, the combat car, which is pretty much the best thing about being a Recon, is very hard to grind to. You need a lot of help to grind up to the combat car. So let's look at some pros now. As far as pros go, you get access to a much better scope, 8 times zoom for your bolt action, or the German #1 for your semi-auto, so a lot easier to see through that. You get a better barrel on a Recon, which will give you the option to one-shot bronze heavyset. So pretty much you'll be able to one-shot, I'd say, any character, maybe around level 1 to 5, 1 to 6, something like that, until they get their silver. You get access to the combat car, which is pretty amazing. Doesn't matter what faction you play on, the combat car is just a really nice thing to have if you need to pull one out. You get better camo because you can get the full suit camo options that wouldn't normally be available. If you just had, say, an infantry guy and you got a pretty cool camo, you only get the shirt, but for the Recon guy you can get a full suit. So that's pretty sweet. As well, you get cheaper camo on the Recon guides. For most of the camos, they're about half the price of what you would normally pay for just an infantry camo. I'd say the Recon is less badge dependent, since you're fighting at medium to long range. You don't always have to be running heavy set. You can be running ghillie and camouflage, and that's a perfectly respectable Recon build. You get more running space with the Recon since you have less range, which forces you to have a bigger sprint bar in the end. And when you mod your rifle for max damage, that's with the barrel, with the bullet, you can one-hit kill silver heavy set. You can't one-hit kill gold. Doesn't matter what faction you are, it's already been bug tested, but one-hit kill through silver, that's pretty amazing. The grind between silver and gold heavyset is pretty long. And lastly, the motorbike is really easy to grind to, so you'll be able to get your motorbike and zip around the map, get to any hiding place you want. I'm gonna go take a step further and do a little comparison of the different factions and see which one comes out ahead or if all of them just come out around even. So starting with German. German arguably has the best combat car, 222. It's good for killing infantry and light vehicles with the autocannon, even planes. So arguably the best. Typically when playing German, people will use the Recon resource, so that's it's a good thing. You go from a 4.2 times scope to an 8 times scope, so not really that amazing of an increase. But the best thing of all is the Germans have the best scope recovery time. It's been tested. They've got the best scope recovery time, meaning you can get accurate shots on target slightly faster than a Russian or American. Now looking at America, the Americans typically will use their Recon resources, so that's a good thing to expect in games. The American bolt action should have the most damage out of all three, but I can't confirm if they can one-shot bronze without the need of extra damage mods like the barrel or bullet. And the best thing about the American Recon, which is pretty much one of the reasons why you would go for an American Recon, is you go from a 2.2 times scope to an 8 times scope. So biggest improvement out of all three, and it's a good reason to switch your infantry to a Recon if sniping is the thing that you're looking for as an American. Now looking at the Russians, so I have a hard time with Russia sometimes. I mean, typically people don't use Russian Recon, and that results in a lot of lost games because people aren't going to be using the Recon. Now, war is different, but in staged you only have a specific number of lives, and if you don't use up all your lives early enough as Recon, you're going to lose out because people don't have the Recon resource, and your team basically just gives the other a free win. Russia get access to a tier 1 combat car, which is good at killing infantry, and it will help you grind to the tier 2 much faster than the other factions. You go from a 3.5 times scope to an 8 times scope, so not the biggest improvement, but definitely a better improvement compared to, say, the German. And probably one of the cool things about Russia, though, is you get the most camo options. They got a lot of crazy, just amazing looking camos. Full bodysuit, obviously, and the infantry compared to these Recon camos, the Russians just have it really good with their Recon camos. Not too much else to say about the Recon that I can think of. Thanks for watching and hope you enjoyed it. Drop me a like and subscribe if you did. Have a great one, and I'll see you on the next one.